Sri Aurobindo to Dilip, Book 1, Part 7, June 2nd, 1931. It was not half sleep or quarter sleep or even 16th sleep that you had. It was the going inside of the consciousness, which in that state remains conscious, but shut to outer things and open only to inner experience. You must distinguish clearly between these two quite different states. One is nidra, sleep, the other the beginning, at least, of samadhi, not nirvikalpa, of course. This drawing inside is necessary, because the active mind of the human being is at first too much turned to outward things. It has to go inside altogether in order to live in the inner being, inner mind, inner vital, inner physical, psychic. But with training, one can remain outwardly conscious and live in the inner being, and has, at will, the indrawn or the outpoured experience. You will then have the same experience of dense immobility and the inpouring of a greater and purer consciousness in the waking state, as in what you erroneously call sleep. As for working, it depends on what you mean by the word. Desire often leads either to excess of effort, meaning often much labor and a limited fruit with strain, exhaustion, and in case of difficulty or failure, despondence, disbelief, or revolt. Or else it leads to pulling down the force. This can be done, but except for the yogically strong and experienced, it is not always safe, though it may be often very effective. Not safe, first, because it may lead to violent reactions, or it brings down contrary or wrong or mixed forces, which the sadhak is not experienced enough to distinguish from the true ones. Or else it may substitute the sadhak's own limited power of experience or mental and vital constructions for the free gift and true leading of the divine. Cases differ. Each has his own way of sadhana. But for you, what I would recommend is constant openness, a quiet, steady aspiration, no over-eagerness, a cheerful trust, and patience. Yes, the mantra, not necessarily in the Upanishads, as I have tried to describe it in the future poetry, is what comes from the overmind inspiration. Its characteristics are a language that says infinitely more than the mere sense of the words seem to indicate. A rhythm that means even more than the language and is born out of the infinite and disappears into it, and the power to convey not merely the mental, vital, or physical contents or indications or value of the thing it speaks of, but its value and figure in some fundamental and original consciousness, which is behind all these. The passages you mention from the Upanishad and the Gita have certainly the overmind accent. But ordinarily, as I have said, the overmind inspiration does not come out pure in human poetry. It has to take hold of something that was meant to be a mental, vital, or other utterance and lift it by a seizure and surprise from above into the overmind largeness. But in doing so, there is usually a mixture of the two elements. You must remember that the overmind is a superhuman consciousness, and to be able to write always or purely from an overmind inspiration would mean the elevation of at least a part of the nature beyond the human level. But to write of these things would need a greater length of exposition than I can give you at present. But how then do you expect the supramental inspiration to come down here when the overmind itself is so rarely in human reach? That is always the error of the impatient aspirant. To think he can get the supermind without going through the intervening stages, or to imagine that he has got it when in fact he has only got something from the illumined or intuitive, or at the highest, some kind of mixed overmind consciousness. June 27th, 1931. It is not surprising that you could not find out what you had done to make the mother change her attitude towards you, and this for two good reasons. First, that you had done nothing, and second, that the mother's feeling for you and her attitude had not changed at all, not in any smallest respect, not in the least shadow of a degree. She has the same care and love as she always had, and during the last few days of which you speak, they were not clouded for a moment. Then you ask, if so, why do I feel like this or like that? I can only answer that in their origin, they were not your own feelings at all, but rather ideas, impressions, impulses pushed into your lower vital from outside. Your mistake has been to admit them and identify them as your own, from want of knowledge and experience in these matters. They are certainly vital forces of this lower vital plane that are constantly wandering about the ashram and trying to push their movements now on one, now on another, now on several at a time. The process is always the same. First, suggestions. The mother has done this or not done that. She has said this or not said that. She has had this or that thought about me or feeling towards me. She is displeased with me, unfair to me, partial to others, etc., etc., etc. Next, discouragement, wounded feelings, jealousy, despondency, revolt, or any other kindred vital downfall or upheaval. Result, the impulse to withdraw from the mother, not to give her flowers or take flowers, to go away from the soup or pranam, not to come there, to shut oneself away from her altogether, to give up the yoga, to go away, or worse. I give you the whole round in its ground plan, omitting many variations, so that you may be on your guard the next time these suggestions try to come. If you don't want to be misled by them, and to go through such quite groundless and unnecessary disturbance and trouble, you must recognize them immediately they come. Cast them out by the neck or break their backs as you would a snake's. For they are, in their nature, not only irrational, but strongly mechanical. Irrational because they have no true ground in reality. They are ready enough to seize in some, usually trifling, outward appearances and twist them this way or that in order to convince the easily deceived physical mind. They will even create circumstances and make them appear to have that color. But if they cannot find or create, they will go on just as merrily with no other ground than imaginations or impressions which they persuade their victims to take for realities. And they are mechanical because once they can make the mind their field, they always recur with the same inevitable round of suggestions, the same ideas, the same feelings, the same impulses, the same actions in consequence. It is like a recurrent illness with always the same series of symptoms and the same course, and the object is always the same: to create a distance between the sadhak and the mother, and so to break the sadhana. It is a great mistake to think, as some do, that the mother in such cases pushes the sadhak away from her. On the contrary, it is he who pushes her away from him under the influence of these forces, and believes all the time, for they have a great power of blinding the mind and clouding the judgment, that she is to blame. Footnote 1. Mother used to distribute soup every evening. She would first meditate while keeping her hands extended over the container. Meditation over, one by one, the disciples approached with an empty cup, which Mother filled with the hot soup.